My name is Dave Crawford. I'm a lead designer in the Windows 8 Centre of Excellence based in the UK.
And what are we going to do today?
And today I'm going to take you through a couple of apps that we've got that we think are pretty good examples of design on Windows 8. We're going to talk through some of the kind of areas that you want to make sure you get right, things you want to avoid, and the good ways of doing this and pieces when you're designing for Windows 8.
Perfect.
Okay, so the first thing I'm going to talk to you about is wide tiles. Now, a lot of people think that it's a great idea to implement a wide tile for the start screen. And wide tiles are a great way of showcasing your brand and the application and some of the content in there. But the one thing that we ask is that if you're going to be using a wide tile, you actually make it live so that it has some purpose and some reason of taking up twice as much space on the user start screen as a regular tile does. So here we have some great examples of live tiles. We've got iCookbook here, which is showcasing some of the different recipes. We've got WWE, which is showing some of the latest pictures and news stories and mixing in several different pieces of content here. The thing you have to do actually with wide tiles is make sure you're using one of the standard tile templates, but there's loads. I think there's like 24 different tiles you can use, so you've got plenty of options to try different things out. New Zealand Cricket's here, just giving us a couple of headlines, and New Zealand Herald here is also showing us the images of some news stories. You can also see this in some of the native apps that ship with the device. We've got latest weather forecast, emails coming through on the mail tile and our next meetings, that kind of stuff. So it's something that users are used to seeing, and they will prioritise the apps that they like the updates the most and the apps that they use the most onto the beginning of their start screen. So if they don't see any value in your tile, they'll push it off the screen. So you need to make sure it's giving something to make sure it draws them in. So that's the first thing I'm going to talk to you about. Next thing I'm going to talk to you about is actually kind of laying out and styling your application. Now, we make it fairly easy for developers when they first install the tools for developing, that they can take one of the standard out-of-the-box templates and you get these nice big boxes and fill it with content and that kind of stuff. But it gets a bit boring, and what we'd like to see is people playing a little bit more with the grid and playing more with the layout of the application, but still kind of keeping within the Windows 8 look and feel. So I've got some examples here to show you of some great ways that that's been done. First thing I'm going to show you is iCookbook. These are all available in the store for you to download and have a play with. You see here that they're kind of using the standard Windows 8 style layout, these nice big blocks of content that take you further into the application. What they're doing here is they're bringing a bit more of their brand into it. So rather than just having like the standard black background and the white boxes, here they've got this nice big image that fits across the back of the screen. And then they've mixed up the content. We call this playing with the layout of the content to add visual variation. So here we've got this nice big image here for the spotlight. They've put this kind of a nice quirky diagonal slant on it, which is a brand element that they'll keep using throughout their application. We'll see more of that in a moment. They also have some of the smaller items here, which are other spotlight pieces. As we scroll across, we see they're changing the layout here. So rather than just having more of the tiles the same, they actually have a smaller list here, which is the recent things I've been looking at. And you see this kind of repetition of this layout again. It would be nice to see them playing a little bit more with these layouts, so we didn't just have the same template repeated. But what is nice is that at least it's not the standard template that you see everywhere. When we tap to go into one of these, such as Autumn Chicken, you see that they carry this kind of diagonal device through here. As we scroll through their hub, again they're varying the layout of pieces to make it more interesting, and at one point end up with the ingredients docked as well, so you can quite easily see the different steps as we're going through and cooking our autumn chicken in this case. So that's a great way of playing with variation on the hub. Another one I'd like to show you is WWE. Now, I must admit I'm not the biggest wrestling fan in the world, however this is one of my favourite apps because it's such a nice design, and they really play with the brand and also with the layout of a Windows app. So here we can see we've got the first section, which is My Universe, and they're really making use of the different sizes of tiles and different pieces of content they've got. So here we've got this nice big image here, which is showing the current ranking of the wrestlers. We've got some smaller news stories down here, but we can see that this guy's fist is breaking out the grid slightly and overlapping with some of the latest news, which is a nice fun way of playing with the content. And even the gaps between the two sections, so we've got a section here for My Universe, a section here for Live. They've put a wrestler in between who's broken out of the grid and just sat in the background, and that's really cool as well. And one of the nice things about this is if I was to actually go into, look at one of these wrestlers, so say I'm going to this NXT section and I pick, I don't know, this guy with the turban looks pretty cool. So if I look at Jinder Mahal, for example, again it loads in this kind of standard horizontal panning that Windows 8 has, and I can look through all his different things he's been doing, all the pictures of him, all that kind of stuff. What you'll see is when I go back to the main hub now, and I go to the end of the list, it's now started to replace the wrestlers with the content I've just been looking at. And that's a really nice way of personalising the experience for the user as well. So if they've got favourite wrestlers that they're always looking at, they will now appear on their main hub. And here they've mixed up the videos and the photos. They've got some tall ones and some wide ones. And all this stuff just kind of helps make it a bit more interesting to the user when they're looking at it. It also serves a purpose as well. And that helps the user to figure out where they are in the application, when they get into the end of it, whether they're in the middle of it, that kind of stuff. It's almost like a visual signpost for them. So another one I'd like to show you briefly is the Sport app, which I just need to find. Is the Bing Sports. Where are you, Bing Sports? I'm going to cut this bit out. There we go. So if I launch Bing Sports now, this is an app that ships with Windows 8. You see here they make fantastic use of playing with the layout. When you first start the app, you have this massive image that really draws you in, almost like a front cover of a glossy magazine, and it's beautiful, it's a rich image, and it's been professionally shot and everything like that. If you just look at it here, it works really well. Nice bit of out of focus stuff. They put a little gradient on the bottom so you can read the text well. And as you start scrolling across, you can see that these sections are very obviously different to each other. So this is our news section, these nice big tiles and a summary of the news article. So I scroll sideways, then get the schedules, which are represented in slightly different ways. So we've got these smaller tiles with different logos on them. And then we start to get this for favourite teams. The magazine articles are nice and bold and rich, just like we would see in a magazine. And even the ads fit in nicely. Rather than having these like random ad placements at the top and bottom, they've put it in line with the content, which makes it less obtrusive, but also means you can actually take up a little bit more space with your ads if you want to, without annoying the user too much. Now, whilst we're on the subject of this particular app, something else I want to talk about is app bars and navigation. We see people kind of getting mixed up around how they should use app bars. In general, well, there are two app bars in Windows 8. There's a top app bar and a bottom app bar. And whether you swipe up from the bottom or you swipe down from the top, both will appear at the same time. It can also be triggered by right-clicking with the mouse. And the two app bars are where you put commands and navigation that are consistent across the app in terms of the top app bar, and commands that affect the page in terms of the bottom app bar. But what people don't realise is that you need to use the bottom app bar for commands that interact with the page. This is where you put things like filtering and saving and editing and things like that. And the top app bar is where you put navigation. So home buttons shouldn't sit in the bottom app bar, they should sit in the top. And Bing Sports is a great example of how to do this well. So if I swipe down from the top of the screen here, you see both of my app bars appear. And at the top I have navigation to all my different top level categories. Perfect place to put it. You'll notice that they've also made these into squares rather than circles, so they're not commands, they're actually navigation. And the bottom app bar here, I've got a refresh button. That's a command that's going to refresh this particular page. So we like to see this nice division between navigation content and commanding content, which sits at the bottom here. So the next thing I'd like to talk to you about is charms. Now, not enough people use charms. Charms are these four little icons that appear down the side of the screen when I'm swiping from the edge. With search, share, devices and settings. And developers can plug into these. And this is where users will go for these most common interaction situations. Such as if they want to search in your app, they will look in the search charm. So for example, in this one, I can search for my favourite team. So I'm going to search for, I know, the Denver Broncos. Just tap that there. And you can see it's also bringing back search results for people as well. Tap that. It performs a search in the app and takes to the detail for that. Rather than having to have separate search UI I have to build myself, or search buttons I litter the canvas with or put in the app bars and just really inconsistent, it's nice to have this really nice and consistent way of finding that. That's the first one. The second one is share. Let's see if this app implements share. Yeah, so in the Bing Sports app, I can share this content out to one of the services that can accept sharing. So in this case, I can email my friends details of the Denver Broncos, or I can share it with the People Hub on Facebook and Twitter. It's important that you use the default share contract rather than building your own share to create a consistent experience for the user. Make sure they can share on the networks that they want to share on. If, for example, I've got a Twitter app installed and your particular app doesn't share to Twitter, I can still share to Twitter by using the share contract. I'm not artificially limited by what you have time to develop. I'm going to show another other app now, and I'm going to show actually another sporting app. I'm going to show the New Zealand cricket app. This is another beautifully designed app. They take a lot of cues from the Bing News app, as you can see, with a nice big imagery. That's the great thing about working with brands that integrate tightly with media. So if you work for a a TV or news site, for example, or sports or food, anything with nice big imagery, you tend to already have like a step up on making some beautiful hub designs. That's not always the case, but you can always find other ways of doing this. If we look through here, again, they do some fantastic variation in the layout of their hub design. And you can see also they have this nice little parallax effect. So as I'm dragging this content on the foreground, the background image is also moving but at a slightly different speed, and the logo is staying fixed at the top, which means you get this nice kind of multi-layered effect going on. Really, really beautiful interaction here. And here again they mix not only the layout but also the colour of things they're doing on the main hub. Now then, one of these things these guys don't do is semantic zoom, which is a little bit of a frustration, because if you see how long this hub is, if you only go back to the beginning, there's a lot of me swiping sideways just to get between things. So if you end up with a hub that's more than about 7 sections, you need to consider implementing semantic zoom, just so you can quickly get across your app. So say I just wanted to get quickly to the news section of this, I have to sit there and go like this just to get to the news section. Whereas a nice quick pinch and semantic zoom, I can jump straight to it. So more than about 7 pages, we recommend you implement semantic zoom so you just can quickly jump across your app. Okay, so we've had quite a whistle-stop tour of live tile design. We've talked about templates and varying the hub layout. We've talked about app bars and about charms. One last note on charms actually is there is a settings charm, and that's where your settings go, where your help information goes, where your copyright, your privacy policy, all that stuff goes into settings. There's no need for you to build your own settings UI when you can service it all in there. And we've also talked a bit about semantic zoom as well, and some nice examples of some beautiful design out there. The good news is there's lots of beautiful examples out on the store at the moment, and we're adding new apps to that every day, so just keep your eyes peeled and keep reading the newsletter. And
what's your top tip? Where should they go and find all this kind of information?
MSDN, of course.
But whereabouts?
And Ubelly.
And
I don't know, you can have
Design?
to tell me. Oh, design.windows.com.
Of course.
That is basically the Bible. We write a lot of guidance based around design.windows.com. We also feed back into that as well. There's a wealth of information there. Type in pretty much anything, you'll get a load of search results back, which is really targeted and really relevant. The great thing about it is, as well, is that they'll also explain why rather than just what you should be doing. There's lots of examples of the good and bad ways of doing things, and yeah, it's a fantastic resource. It's updated really, really frequently to make sure it's as comprehensive as possible and also as accurate as possible as well. So I definitely recommend design.windows.com. I use it every day, I just didn't even think about it.
Perfect. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.